Hey guys, Scott from Strictly Pro Touring here. Since our page is called Strictly Pro Touring, I thought it would be a good idea to dive into what is Pro Touring. So today, not only are you going to hear from me, but I've got three special guests that are going to give you their take. I've got Dale from Schwartz Performance, who I'm sure I've spoke about here before, who they were responsible for building the chassis on this car. I've got Tim King from LateralG.net. Tim's been in the pro touring scene for years. He's got an awesome Chevelle I'm sure you've seen. And then we've got Nick Licata, who is the editor of Camaro Performers and Chevy High Performance for years. Nick's a good buddy of mine, and we worked together for years, and he's probably been to more pro touring events than just about anybody. So I thought he would be a good one to have on here and give his take as well. So stay tuned for more. Thanks. So first, guys, I wanted to give you my take on what is pro touring. So pro touring, as I understand it, is a combination of the terms pro street and grand touring. So grand touring has been around for years. It's the concept is you have a well-handling car that you could drive coast to coast, and it's something that you'd really enjoy on a twisty road, through the canyons or wherever. So that's grand touring, comfortable, but very sporty car. And then you've got pro street. Now, pro street was a fad. I don't want to call it a fad, but it's a type of build that started, I believe, in the 80s and 90s. And pro street, the concept was you would essentially take a drag car with a full drag car with a cage, a lot of times at a blower. And you would basically turn it into a street car. So it'd still have the cage in there, but a lot of times the cage was like leather wrapped. You got leather seats. A lot of times they would have air conditioning. At the very least, they got a nice big radiator so you could drive it as much as you want. Bigger fuel cell. So that's basically pro street in a nutshell. So you take those two terms, you kind of mash them together, and that's what gives you pro touring. My take on pro touring is, don't get me wrong, I love the raced out cars. You look at like something like, Road Rage, like Roadster Shop Built, amazing car. I love to look at that thing. Not exactly pro touring in my opinion. Pro touring to me is, as I mentioned earlier, it is a car that has air conditioning. You can drive anywhere, and but it's got the handling that you would want to take it on an autocross course.
Hey guys, Tim from Lateral G here. So recently I was asked what is pro touring, and for me that's a classic car that has been upgraded with modern performance suspension and brakes and engines or interiors, everything, to make it a higher performing car that is reliable, that can go coast to coast, can go race an Optima event, can go race a Good Guys event, and do well at those. The thing that some people will argue on there is, well, does it have to be a classic car, or can it be a modern car? And I really feel like it should be the classic car, because that's where it got started with. And to me, a modern car, anybody could hop in a brand new C7, C8 Corvette and drive coast to coast and compete in these events. It's not a challenge. The challenge is getting a '69 Camaro to compete with that brand new Corvette and maybe win. So to me, that's more what it's about. On that same token, I started delving into when did pro touring become synonymous with autocross. So last summer I did the Hot Rod Power Tour and I did the Good Guys Road Tour. So I put a lot of miles on an old 65 Cutlass that had gotten the pro touring treatment, and it really got me thinking that this is really what pro touring is about, is being able to hop in your car comfortably, hit the air conditioning, have tons of power, stop on a dime, go around back roads and everything comfortably. And that to me really redefined pro touring for me. It was not so much the racing aspect, but the back road cruising, just the overall enjoyment of these classic cars. And I think that's something that a lot of people have lost sight on, is they get too wrapped up into the racing aspect of it and not so much the other end of it too. So for me, that's what pro touring is.
Hey everybody, Dale from Schwartz Performance here with my opinion on what pro touring is. So, My take on pro touring has changed a little bit throughout the years, but in general has remained mostly the same. A lot of people will argue that a pro touring car, is just maybe the stance just lowered a little bit and may have fuel injection or something like that. But I think it's a little bit more than that. In my opinion, a resto mod is something that has mostly stock suspension, maybe some lowering springs or shocks, but retains most of the factory components. Now, a pro touring car, on the other hand, is kind of similar to this car behind me. Now, this is a 74 Nova that we're in the middle of building. It's got some forge line wheels, it's mini tubbed, it's got a modern paint job, modern LT4 engine, and our Schwartz G-Machine chassis for these cars. So this is a little bit higher end pro touring compared to what pro touring can be. So if your car has lowering springs, maybe some bigger wheels and tires, because let's face it, although 15-inch wheels and those big sidewall tires look nice and have that muscle car style to them, these lower profile tires, like modern cars have, handle so much better. And really the ride quality is not terrible. It really depends on the suspension. So suspension upgrades are a definite must on a pro touring build, and slightly bigger wheels. Now, you can't fit 13-inch 6-piston brakes underneath a 15-inch wheel either. So that's another reason for going with larger wheels. It's not necessarily the look, but because we got some big brakes to stuff underneath those, especially if you're going to want to stop within a reasonable distance. Now, factory cars had, 10-inch brakes. Some of them had drums at all four corners. So that's a big improvement there. Now, modern engine, that's not necessarily a need for a pro touring build. I believe that pro touring cars can, of course, have Pontiac motors, Buick, Olds, big blocks, small blocks, Fords, whatever your taste may be. Even old school Hemis could be a pro touring car, as long as the suspension and the stance is kind of nailed. You can't have a jacked up gasser looking car and call it a pro touring car. That's just not going to happen. So the stance is very important. You can see this Nova is pretty low, all things considered. And, in my opinion, trucks can also be pro touring vehicles. There are pro touring trucks out there that handle just as good as some of these cars that we built. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight, at least my opinion. I know others will have other opinions as well of what pro touring is, but take care, guys.
I never really loved the term pro touring. I always thought these cars were more suited to be called G machines. Pro touring insinuates that a lot of guys out there are pros, when that's typically not the case. Most of the guys out here on these cars are weekend warriors with bolt-on suspension. Some of them have full chassis. But overall, it's just they built a car to go around cones on an autocross or a little more high speed on a road course, and they're out there pulling G's. And so the term G machine always seemed to me as a better fit for these cars. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have cars that were built by pros that have immaculate interior, high-end paint jobs, worth well over $100,000. So I guess in some sense the term pro touring might fit, but overall I like the term G machine better.